All right, let's get it started. I only have 29 minutes. This is going to be fun. I'm going to talk to you about setting entries and exits on your charts, trying to figure out really when the best time is to enter and when is the best time to get out. And I'll be showing you some live examples as well. But before we get started, let's see if I can make this go. I want to tell you a little bit about who I am. I have a bachelor's in mathematics from USC, Fight On, a Master of Science in Information Resource Management that I got at the Air Force Institute of Technology. I've been studying the markets. This is actually an old slide. I've been studying the markets for at least 25 years. I honestly started looking at charts back when I was in high school. That was a very long time ago. It was charts that we were using graph paper for. That tells you that I'm a little on the older side. DecisionPoint.com is my website. I'm the vice president and senior technical analyst there. And I also, you can find me on stockcharts.com as a consulting technical analyst there. And I'm host of the Decision Point Trading Room on Mondays. All right, so before we get into setting the exits and entries, let's talk a little bit about the life cycle of a decision point trade in any case. First, I like to start with big picture analysis. I want to know the trending condition of the overall market. It's going to make a big difference into, where the strength lies or does not lie. For example, the NASDAQ, we've seen a lot of strength coming out of that with AI and such, whereas maybe the small caps and some of the others aren't doing quite as well. I also do sector and industry group analysis. That makes it good to drill down, find out what sectors are doing well. I then run diamond scans. These I run for my Decision Point Diamonds report. I do 10 stock picks and ETF picks per week on the Decision Point Diamonds report. And I will talk to you about setting entries and exits a lot of the time in the trading room that goes along with the Decision Point Diamonds. And that is on Fridays. It is only for subscribers. Then I take all of those scans results and I sift through them. Stock Charts has a really excellent way of doing this, but that's for another time. Then I make my pick. Once I've made my pick, I need to time my entry and exit, and this is where we're going to concentrate today. And then I like to determine a target and a stop. We won't be really talking about that today because we're going to be looking at 5-minute candlestick charts pretty much throughout the whole thing so that we can practice setting those entries and exits using that 5-minute candlestick chart. Which charts should you follow? Well, the long-term investor should be looking at monthly charts and weekly charts, and then going down and digging into those daily charts. An intermediate-term investor, you're looking at weekly charts to daily charts. Short-term trading, which is what we're going to talk about here, you use the daily charts to minute charts, and that's what we're going to talk about is that 5-minute candlestick chart. Day traders, you can use those minute charts, and I think that using the entries and exits that I'll talk to you about today could work for you as a day trader. I prefer more of a short-term trading time frame because I do like to include those daily charts and get a really good sense of where the stock is or ETF is going before I get in. But I don't day trade, but you could use it for that. And then we go ahead and time those entries and exits, like I said, with minute charts. So the important indicators that I follow, first of all, is the price momentum oscillator, the PMO. This is developed by Decision Point many, many years ago by my father. I helped him a little bit with the algebra. And it really mimics, I wouldn't say the MACD so much. It's very similar to the MACD, but it mimics more of the PPO, the percent price oscillator. So if you don't have access to the PMO, you can get it on stockcharts.com. I believe it's on some of the other major charting platforms, but if you can't get that, the PPO will work pretty well for you. I use the relative strength index, the RSI. I think that's very important, and I use that in my timing, my entries and my exits. And I use on balance volume, not necessarily as a primary indicator. It's sort of a background indicator where I look at it to give me a sense of what the volume trends are, but I'm not necessarily trading based on the OBV. I use stochastics. This has actually been something I kind of added to my daily charts. But again, we're going to talk minute charts here, not daily charts. And then I do relative strength analysis as well on those daily charts. But like I said, here's a daily just to give you a sense of these indicators that I use. There's your RSI at the top, like most people put it. This is our overbought and oversold indicator. It tells us whether price is overbought where it goes above 70 or oversold where it goes below 30. So it's kind of a nice little indicator to give you a sense of where price is in its past 2 weeks. That's what it's measuring for you. In this case, we had a double bottom, so that was a nice setup here for fold. PMO, this is where I got my buy signal on the PMO. We have rising stochastics, which look good. The OBV isn't quite robust here. It is trending lower, which I don't like to see, but the market or the stock was trending lower to begin with. So I prefer to see a bigger jump on volume here than what I'm seeing, but no chart is absolutely perfect. The relative strength I check of the industry group to the S&P. I think that's really important to know that you're fishing from a group that is showing strength against the S&P. That's where we want to be, is in stocks and ETFs that are going to beat the market. And so that's what we want to see. The relative strength of the stock to the S&P, that's where I check how well it's doing that way. But the one that I add that most people don't add is I look at the relative strength of the stock to its industry group. I want to know that, okay, I've got a great group going on here, but I want to find one that's showing leadership within the group. And that's what you can do when you compare the stock to its industry group for that relative strength line. So this is kind of the process that I follow for doing decision point diamonds. I sift those scans, I find charts like this, and then I present them in my reports. And we do fairly well. I mean, I generally in a month maybe have about 4 or 5 stops hit out of 40 stocks in ETFs. So I feel like we do pretty well. And I do have to say that when people subscribe, they tend to stick around. All right, so entries and exits, let's get to it. We use the same indicators. I use the PMO, the RSI, and the OBV. And we use those same thresholds. We're looking for the same kind of setup where you have that RSI moving above 50, getting positive. We want that PMO rising. We want the RSI, like I said, in positive territory. Those are the 2 primary things we're looking for when we do our entries and exits. I only use a minute chart for entries and exits because that's really the time frame I'm looking at. I need to figure out the best time to get in and the best time to get out. And that's on a minute chart. That's not on your daily chart. Your daily chart, that's where you set your stops and your upside targets. Just as a quick little hint on setting stops, and I think most of you are familiar, but what I generally do is I'm looking for support levels and going just beyond those if I can to set my stops. That's primarily what I do. I'd set them between 5 and 8%, but of course every chart's different, and really I have to see what's going on the rest of the chart to know how deep I really want to set my stop. But we're talking entries. We do this on the 5-minute candle, and the exits we're also going to do on a 5-minute candle. All right. So here are your rules for entries and exits, and I'm going to show you a ton of charts, so don't worry about that. But let's just get the basics down here. So our rules for entry and exits are as such. We use, I'm going to keep telling you, the 5-minute candlestick chart. The conservative entries, there are conservative and aggressive entries. The conservative entry is when you get a PMO positive crossover and it is combined with a positive RSI or an RSI that is above 50. Those are where we're looking for our conservative entries. The sell points, those are going to be anytime the PMO turns down. So anytime the 5-minute momentum starts to turn down, that is going to be generally your best sell point out there. I don't wait for a negative crossover. I don't watch the RSI for sell points. Honestly, if I'm coming to sell a stock, I just need an excuse. And my excuse is when momentum shifts. That's all I need. Now, if we're doing a short sale, that would be different. Then I would want to have those crossovers and in that case, a negative RSI. Aggressive entries are going to be based on the price pattern on the chart, and it's also going to be based on how the PMO and RSI are reacting to price. So the conservative entry is easy to remember: crossover, positive RSI. The aggressive entries is where it gets a little more tricky, but we'll talk a little bit more about those in a moment. So let's look at a basic 5-minute candlestick chart, and I'm going to show you quite a few of these to fill up my time so that you really get a sense of what we're doing here. So here is your conservative entry. That was when the PMO gave me that positive crossover and we had the positive RSI. As background, we also see the OBV rising. So we know volume is coming in. So those three things really set us up for a good entry point, and that put us in right about here. For the day trader, you're going to have entered, and now you're going to be looking for a good exit. Now you can exit, like I said, as soon as that PMO turns down. So you could have exited right in here, but I would prefer to wait till we're getting a more deep turn on that PMO. We also had a positive RSI at this point. So if I were watching this chart for an exit, I may not exit right away if the RSI is positive. So that's where it gets a little more tricky. So we'll just look, like I said, the more of these you look at, the better it is. Here we have a PMO crossover buy signal combined with the positive RSI. So this gave us another buy point back here. So there's the buy point, the sell point, there's some prior buy points in here, and then there's the sell point that came in off of this decline. All right, let's go look at some charts. Bear with me as I get it showing the right screen. Come on now. All righty. Okay, that should share the right one. There we go. Just making sure it looks, I want to give you just the chart. Don't need to confuse things any more so than they already can be. Okay, so here's a 5-minute candlestick. There's our RSI right here. Here is the PMO, and there's your OBV. So let's consider where prior buy points are. I'm going to get my inspect tool out here so you can see the vertical line to see what we're talking about. So let's look back here. We can start at the beginning. Here came a buy point right about here because that's when the RSI got positive. So there's your crossover, tick over to the positive RSI, and that would have gotten you in on this particular candlestick right here. The next point would be this sell point that came in over here. That's going to have gotten you out on that candlestick right about here. So that particular day trade, if you were day trading, wasn't going to work out that well. But a lot of times these will for you. So here's a sell point that came in back here, got you out at a pretty decent time. This is your next buy point. There's your positive RSI or positive PMO, your positive crossover. That would be an aggressive entry because the RSI is not yet positive. Keep moving over. And there we have the next entry on the positive PMO and the positive crossover. That put us in right about here. The next buy point came in over here. That would have gotten us in right about the same time. So what happens is you're going to have these buy points. You're going to be watching the PMO, something like what is going on here, and you've got to figure out where to get in, because momentum is going up. You're more than likely going to see higher prices. You have to pay close attention. So we would watch the PMO. We see that everything is positive, but where was our prior buy point? Our prior buy point was right here, the conservative one. So that means we got in somewhere around 294.56. So you're watching this. You want to watch and see if you can't get it back at that prior buy point. Now, if the PMO is going to continue rising in a very, let's see what it ends up doing here. Yep, so this is still, let me make sure this is the most recent. All right. So you can see the PMO starting to maybe decelerate just a little. The RSI is flattened because price is flattening out. This tells me we're in a consolidation period. And this is interesting, this volume pattern right here on the OBV, that huge volume down spike. So while this wasn't a big down spike in price, it certainly held a lot of volume there. So more than likely, even though the PMO is rising, we're probably going to get a better buy point, or we'll end up where we were at the prior buy point. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. Let's look at another example. How about Starbucks? Tried to find some that have some interesting things going on with the charts. Sometimes they're not very easy. Sometimes you're going to see something like this. This means there is strength. It's flat and it's above the zero line. That means there's strength, but it's flat. So we're getting mostly flat pricing. But notice that it's going up back here. Price is going up and the PMO is flat. That's okay. That means that the acceleration is about the same. We're not seeing it push to the upside any more so than it already is, and we're not seeing it lose shape either. So that's what's going on when the PMO is flat. But it does make it a little difficult when you're looking at a chart like this and you're trying to find the best entry and exit. You can always go back and look at the price patterns as well. Here is another one where we've got the buy point came in over here, right where the RSI got positive. So let's look here again. Here is your aggressive buy point coming in off oversold readings on the RSI and the PMO turning up. That's your aggressive buy point. That would have gotten you in a little bit earlier. And I have to admit that a lot of times I am going to go for that aggressive buy point. But just know that you are going in an aggressive fashion and you could see it flip on you. So be careful with that. But this told us as a conservative buy point, you keep moving over because we still don't have a positive RSI. So that would have prevented this. We wouldn't have had to deal with that if we went for the conservative buy point. We keep moving and there is where the RSI gets positive. That would be your entry. Where's the next exit come in? The next exit comes in back here, which would have gotten you out back up here rather than down here. So if you are able to watch these 5-minute candlestick charts, you're going to find that you can really improve when you get in and when you get out. And it doesn't require sitting here and looking at it for 24, or, you know, for 8 hours while the market's open. You really don't have to do that. Just keep an eye on what we saw as prior buy points. So the prior buy point came in back here. So we're looking at about 91.70. And then back here where the PMO turned, let's say it came down about here, that would have gotten you out at about 92.17. So you would have ended up with a pretty good day trade. we are seeing price starting to really fall here on Starbucks, and you could see volume is getting very heavy to the downside. Makes me wonder what's going on with the SPY right now with seeing these big selling volume bars. Let's take a look at the SPY 5-minute candle. Why not? Let's see if it's got anything interesting to tell us. Yeah, not much of an interesting day here for the S&P. Buy points and sell points really aren't very visible in this regard. So I would go back to the last buy point, which came in here at 515.78, and that would be where I would be looking to make my entry. We didn't see the entry come in until about here. It was down to that level we had back there. So we are now looking at a PMO in decline. So even though we hit that prior buy point, I'm probably not going to be necessarily jumping right in there because the PMO hasn't made the turn yet. So that is a good example of kind of struggling to find that buy point. But like I said, if you go back to the prior ones, that will give you kind of an area, if you will, to start looking to move to get in. And again, those exits marked by topping PMO. So again, if you're coming to a chart to sell a stock, I mean, I think you just need any really good, really good reason, and falling momentum is a great reason. Let's see, the last sell point came in here. If we were going to short the market, there's your negative crossover, and we'd have to wait. And there is when the RSI got negative. So that would have been your entry for a short. And the exit would be when the PMO starts to turn up. We haven't seen that yet. So on a short, not bad. Let's look at some more examples. This was PSX, was one of my diamonds yesterday for my subscribers. I thought I would share this one with you. Ooh, look at this big high volume bar here. And look at the OBV just dropping out of the sky. We also see the PMO topping beneath its signal line. Price really hasn't lost that much here, but I would tell you that this is your support level right there. Let's see how it goes across 2 touches. That's going to be your support level there. And if that fails, ooh, it's going to be looking pretty ugly here. If I were a buyer, I wouldn't be able to buy here because the PMO is in decline. I want a better buy point. I think I can get one based on this high volume negative move on this particular candlestick. So that one actually turned out to be especially interesting. Where was the prior buy point? Here's the prior buy point right here. Positive crossover, positive RSI would have gotten you in at about 153.66. And your sell point came in down here, which would have gotten you out right at that top. Very nice. Here's the prior buy point here. Now this one's a little tricky because you got the crossover, but now the RSI is overbought. And the RSI being overbought could be a problem. So you may not want to enter when you're seeing that overbought RSI, even though you're getting the requisite PMO crossover. I would just be careful when the RSI gets overbought. You can see what ended up happening. Price got overbought up here. You can see it was staying in overbought territory most of this time. And then it needed to relieve those overbought conditions. And we started to see price fall. We got our sell point. We got our short entry point right about, that's where it went negative. So right about there would be a short entry. And there would be an exit for a short right in here. So that wouldn't have worked out too well for you. But I have to say, if you look at the daily chart of this one, might as well share it. Why not? We have a little time. This looks too positive. I would not be shorting a stock that looks like this on the daily chart. And so it's pretty clear that, you know, when you had that problem, let's make this bigger for you. So we wouldn't be shorting anyway when you come into a stock like this. The only issue I have right now is that RSI has gotten overbought, but we're on a nice move. We have a PMO that's now giving us a positive crossover. We have stochastics above 80, and look at the relative strength here. Not only is the group starting to outperform, but this Phillips 66 is really showing leadership in this group. If you're going to be in the integrated oil and gas group, you want to find a stock like Phillips 66, which tends to outperform its group. So this was a really nice setup. I'm looking for higher prices. Crude oil's being a little weird, so I don't know how high we're going to get these prices, but it's acting weird, but I think it's putting a handle on a cup. I think that we're going to see, after this little bit of decline in crude oil, I'm looking for a nice move to the upside. I haven't seen crude oil today. I've been working on this. All right, so let's look at another one. Let's get back to our 5-minute. We looked at Casey, so let's look at GE. Let me get a drink of water here, 3 minutes. Last example. Here we go. Buy point right here is the first one, came in on this particular candle. Next buy point came in over here on this candle, pretty much put us in right about the same time. The sell point, we want to see the price momentum oscillator getting nice and overbought like it is. You could have sold right in this area here, or you could have sold in this area up here. In either case, these two buy points would have worked out very well for you. All right, let me pause my share for a moment, and I'm going to go back to where we were. Main screen, there we go. We looked at our charts. All right, I got to tell you a little bit more about me here. I have a free live trading room where you can watch live how I do these 5-minute candlestick charts. All you need to do is go to my homepage and sign up for the free newsletter. Or what you can do is subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is at decisionpoint.com. I'm sorry, I don't have a slide for that, but it's at decisionpoint.com. And you'll find the replays of the free trading room in the usually around lunchtime Pacific time. So about 3 p.m. Eastern time is when you're going to see the replays from the free trading room. But if you want to come live and get your symbol requests looked at and have that 5-minute chart looked at, then that's where you want to go, is in that free trading room. If you like the free trading room, then you really want to go and subscribe to my bundle package, which has everything in it. I have my, whoops, let's go back. Actually, I want to see if I can't get us to my website really quickly here, so I can show you around. Got 1 minute left. All right, so my subscriptions are the Decision Point Alert, gives you the trending edition of the overall market. This is your news source. You'll know everything you need to know in short order about the market every market day when we publish the DP Alert. Decision Point Diamonds gives you those 10 stock and ETF picks per week at $80 a month. If you get both, it's $119, but let me stop my share and get back to the other side. Here we go. Main screen, no, go back. Show main screen. I want my coupon code up there. That's what we want. Okay, everybody can see it. My coupon code is WTT19. And It's not 19%. You get your first month for only $19. I was putting this special together right at the end here. So you can save $100 on your first month just by using the coupon code WTT19. And like I said, I encourage you to go to my free trading room and check that out.